Do you think you can memorize all the ABG rules and numbers? It's useless if you don't know the basic physiology. You see, ABG values are not random numbers, but they're actually a reflection of how the systems are interconnected. See, the pH of the blood, the bicarbonate concentration, and the PCO2 are related by an equation. This equation. It looks scarier than it actually is. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize it. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how this equation is central to the whole homeostasis of blood pH. So this equation was given by Henderson and Hasselbalch. Now if you observe here, there is a constant, and this is also a constant. What it means is that pH is related to the log of this ratio. And this ratio is what the body tries to preserve by means of compensation. Now if we place the normal values of bicarb and PCO2 in this ratio, we'll see that as long as the ratio of these two values is 0.6, the pH will be normal, that is 7.4. If this ratio increases, the pH increases, and if it decreases, the pH falls. In other words, your pH depends on how much bicarb is in excess to CO2, or vice versa. So you can have a significant amount of derangement in values of both bicarb and carbon dioxide, and you can still have a normal pH as long as the ratio stays near 0.6. Now, these are the variables at play, but who controls them? Now, just for a revision, as we saw in our previous videos, the CO2 is maintained by the lungs. If you have a high respiratory rate, you will wash out all the CO2 and have respiratory alkalosis. Now, this can either be primary process or a compensation. Similarly, if respiratory rate falls or there is an obstructive airway disease, CO2 builds up, leading to respiratory acidosis. Again, just as a reminder, the normal value we take is 40. If CO2 is above 40, it is respiratory acidosis, and if it is below 40, it is respiratory alkalosis. Now, bicarb is controlled by the kidneys mostly. If kidneys decide to retain bicarb, it will cause metabolic alkalosis, because bicarb is a base. And if kidneys secrete more bicarb, or maybe fail to reabsorb bicarb, metabolic acidosis occurs. Anything more than 24 is metabolic alkalosis, and anything less than 24 is metabolic acidosis. Now obviously this is an oversimplification, and we'll see in other videos how multiple things are at play here. But for now this will do. Now one important thing that will help you understand the physiology better is that lungs always act in minutes, and kidneys take time. They take hours to days. So if you have a metabolic problem, lungs usually begin compensation immediately. But if the primary process is respiratory, kidneys will need some time. Now who compensates how? See, if your pH depends on the ratio of bicarb to CO2, and the body wants this ratio to be maintained around 0.6, so it makes sense that if a process reduces bicarb to 18, the ratio falls. Now the lungs will remove carbon dioxide to such an extent that the PCO2 drops till 30 so that we can have this ratio intact at 0.6. If the lungs can maintain this ratio, the pH may be near normal. But another important rule is that compensation is never complete. Now if the bicarb rises, the CO2 will rise, and vice versa. If the bicarb falls, the CO2 will fall. The fact that there is incomplete compensation helps us figure out which process is the primary and which process is the compensation. Let's simplify this. See, if the bicarb is high and PCO2 is high, either of them can be the primary process and either can be the compensation. We'll look at the pH. If pH is high, high bicarb is the primary process. That means it is metabolic alkalosis that is the primary process. Similarly, if both are reduced and pH is also reduced, metabolic acidosis is the primary process. Now, if bicarb and CO2 both are high but pH is low, it's a respiratory acidosis. And if both bicarb and CO2 are low but pH is high, respiratory alkalosis is the primary process. All this looks a bit confusing. Just try and remember this image, the ratio, and how the pH plays. So, what we learned today? pH depends on the ratio of bicarb to CO2. Lungs control the CO2, kidneys control the bicarb. Lungs are fast, kidneys are slow, and compensation tries to restore this ratio. Okay, now imagine if bicarb increases and CO2 falls at the same time. What is the primary process and what is the compensation? Well, that's for another day. In the next video, we'll understand what the rules of compensation are. Till then, like, share, and subscribe to Renal Dose. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching.